Welcome back.
Thank you. We're going to get kicked off with online safety bill, and the news from this morning is that the police have decided to raid the house of Laurence Fox. So Laurence Fox put this piece of video out just about an hour ago.
Coming after Loza.
Now.
What?
No.
Look how many coppers there are in my house. Look at them, coming to steal everything, take everything out of my house. That, ladies and gentlemen, is the country that we live in.
So the question we've got to ask is this the police? This seems to be the second similar type of activity, Brian, since the online safety bill passed. And the question is this because of the police have got some kind of confidence to behave this way since that bill was passed? But nonetheless, as far as I'm aware, the only crime, if it is a crime that Laurence Fox has committed, is to make a fairly disparaging comment on GB News. Of course, he's been suspended by GB News, as is Dan Wootton, as a result of that. I'm not clear what the criminal aspect or the potential criminal aspect of this is, but he certainly has been raided.
Well, you've been pointing out the online harms, the online safety bill, and of course everything is very vague, and this gives the police all sorts of opportunities to come into your house, doesn't it? It would appear. But what he says is correct. This is the United Kingdom in 2023. We are very, very close to a fascist state.
So the question is, how is the regulatory regime going to work under the online safety bill? Of course, we know that Ofcom is going to be the regulator of the internet, as they are for broadcast media. So let's bring this on screen. This is a comment that they made a couple of days ago on BitChute, the video hosting platform. BitChute improves its safety measures following engagement with Ofcom. So let's just have a look and see what they say. In particular, they were concerned about BitChute's on-platform reporting function only being available to users who had a registered account, and also BitChute's content moderation team being small and limited to certain working hours, which restricted its ability to respond quickly to reports that footage was on the platform following the attack. Now, of course, BitChute is a UK-based platform, and as far as I understand it, what Ofcom was concerned about was that their moderation team only operated on UK working hours. So let's continue with this. It goes on to say that following our engagement, that's Ofcom's engagement with BitChute, they are tripling the size of its moderation team by taking on more human moderators. They're increasing the number of hours that moderators are available to review reports so that it is safety team operational 24/7. And they've changed the design of their platform to allow non-registered users to directly report potentially harmful content. Ofcom goes on to say that BitChute is collecting additional metrics to measure the impact of changes it has made, including the number of content review reports raised each day and average response times to them. And it also became a member of Tech Against Terrorism in October 22 and is a member of the Global Internet Forum to Counter Terrorism. And of course, the reason for that is because going right back to 2018 or so, terrorism was the original excuse for the government, or the original cover for the online harms white paper, which eventually led to the online safety bill. So let's bring Ofcom back on screen then. And they say that the current regime and the future online safety regime will focus on measures that platforms have in place to minimize the risks of users encountering harmful material. They say that it's not their place to decide what is acceptable in terms of individual pieces of content. But if such content does stay on platforms, it may be indicative of an underlying issue, and so on. And they say that they will closely monitor the implementation of BitChute's changes and the impact they have to assess whether they result in tangible improvements to user safety. If we find that despite BitChute's improvements, users are not being adequately protected from relevant harmful material, we will not hesitate to take further action, including formal enforcement action if necessary. So we start to see how this regime is likely to operate. But potentially positive news now. And that's this from Axios, and their headline is Social Media Traffic to Top News Sites Creators. So this is talking about referrals from Facebook and X, formerly Twitter. And if we look at the yellow line, let's zoom in on this graph a little bit here and look at the yellow line, which is referrals to news sites. This is mainstream old news sites. The yellow line shows that going back to 2020, there were 120 million referrals to news sites. So that's, in other words, people clicking on links on the Facebook platform to take themselves to a news site. And that has dropped to 20 million or so, 21 million in August this year. So this is what they have to say about it. Websites' business models, as news website business models that depend on clicks from social media are now broken. They're saying, and this is the irony, it's regulatory pressure that have pushed tech giants to abandon efforts to elevate what they call quality information. So this seems to be an effect of the online safety bill and also similar legislation in the EU. So maybe there's a positive side to this after all.
Well, it's good to see that aspect, Mike. But with regards to Ofcom, of course, who is Ofcom? Who appoints them? What interests have those people got? These are all questions that we not only need to ask, we need to delve into it. And it was some time ago that UK Column was looking at Ofcom, but clearly we need to get back on the case. But they've demonstrated they're going to be authoritarian and draconian in enforcing government policy to shut down free speech. Well, I'm going to say thank you to a viewer who sent an email with this. It says, Swiss LGBT plus rights group hails 60-day sentence for polemicist who called journalist a fat lesbian. And then there's a second one, and a man admitted abducting politicians, but a Swiss court acquitted him. Now, the point being made here is the dual standards, but an additional point that I want to make is that we are seeing similar legislation creeping across all of the Western countries, all of the European countries. So let's put a little bit of meat on the bones here. This is Associated Press, and the headline is Swiss LGBT plus rights group hail that 60-day sentence sorry, I'm having trouble with that word, Mike.
Polemicist.
Thank you. Who called journalist a fat lesbian. Now, that's an unpleasant thing to say, but if we get into the text on this was all about 2 years ago. He also said that the lady's work as a queer activist meant she was unhinged, according to the Swiss public broadcaster RTS. And the comment that came back from Muriel Wagner, co-director of the lesbian activist group LOS, in a statement was, this court decision is an important moment for justice rights of LGBTQI people in Switzerland. And it's a strong signal that homophobic hatred cannot be tolerated in society. So he didn't say anything too unpleasant. As far as I can see, he wasn't talking about bodily harm or that kind of thing, which occasionally, unfortunately, we can see on social media. But nevertheless, that man is going to be sentenced to 60 days in prison. Meanwhile, if we look at the secondary article here, this is the one, the man in question admitted abducting politicians, but a Swiss court acquitted him.
Just to clarify, this is a completely different case, different man.
Yeah, this is a different man. It's a different story. But on one hand, we've got a Swiss court giving 60 days for using nasty words. And this man who's admitted abducting politicians, this is in Belarus, the Swiss court acquits him. Now, it's a strange case because we're led to believe that it began with a former soldier contacting journalists in 2019, claiming that he'd been involved in the disappearance of an ex-interior minister of Belarus. But during the trial, he admitted being involved, but he said he wasn't involved in the murder of 3 men. He was giving his own testimony in front of daughters of one of the victims. But at the end of that hearing, he was acquitted. Now, we could say that this was a highly political case, but the key bit is those dual standards. 60 days in prison for using nasty language, but if you're involved in abducting politicians and the murder of politicians, the same Swiss courts can let you off. This cannot be accidental. And I'd also just like to bring this one in. Particularly unpleasant little story of a Pentagon official accused of dogfighting, and they were executing dogs that lost the fights by electrocuting them. And this Huffington Post headline says a communication official in the Defense Department was arrested for allegedly running a dogfighting operation. And that was based on a report in the Washington Post. But if I come through to another article here from Fox News, picture of a dog in a cage, it's saying the two men used an encrypted messaging system to keep this dogfighting going. But if we come to this paragraph, we get more information. Frederick Douglass Moorfield, 62, served as Deputy Chief Information Officer for Command, Control and Communications for the Office of the Secretary of Defence. So we've got a high-level official, nothing on the BBC, although the BBC in the past has made an effort to at least criticise dog fighting. So dual standards again being demonstrated in this case alone by the BBC.